Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. I'm in Paris today, where I've been meeting businesses who are really worried about a no-deal Brexit. More about that and more about Paris later. Mrs. May went to Brussels today. Now, you know, in the past, it's been very difficult for her going there. They haven't always treated her particularly well. She had a series of meetings today. She began by meeting Mr. Juncker. She then went on to meet Guy Verhofstadt, the European Parliament's chief negotiator, along with Tajani, the president of the European Parliament. And then she met Donald Tusk later on this afternoon. She came out to face the cameras. I would say she was looking pretty businesslike, not perhaps looking quite as under the cosh as she had in the past. This is what she had to say about today's conversations.
Well, I've had a good series of meetings today. We've had robust discussions, but they've been constructive. What I've set out is our clear position that we must secure legally binding changes to the withdrawal agreement to deal with the concerns that Parliament has over the backstop. And taking that, changes to the backstop, together with the other work that we're doing on workers' rights and other issues, will deliver a stable majority in Parliament. And that's what I will continue to push for. Now, it's not going to be easy, but crucially, President Juncker and I have agreed that talks will now start to find a way through this, to find a way to get this over the line and to deliver on the concerns that Parliament has, so we get a majority in Parliament. And I'm clear that I am going to deliver Brexit. I'm going to deliver it on time. That's what I'm going to do for the British public. I'll be negotiating hard in the coming days to do just that.
Did you notice there a Conservative Prime Minister talking about workers' rights as given to us by the European Union? I never thought I'd hear that as long as I live. Mrs. Thatcher fought hard against it. John Major tried to opt out of those things. Why would a British Conservative Prime Minister be talking about workers' rights? Well, I'll tell you why. Because Jeremy Corbyn talks a lot about workers' rights, and she is beginning, in her calculation, to think that maybe the way she gets a parliamentary majority is to get a lot of Labour MPs to vote for it. One other thing I would say, no mention from the Prime Minister there at all of no deal. No mention that we don't actually, under Article 50, have to have an agreement. There are two options. One is we have a withdrawal agreement. The other is we just leave on WTO terms. No mention of it from the Prime Minister, which I do find, I have to say, very surprising, given that I think it's the strongest card that she's got. But let me say something positive about the Prime Minister. And I know this concept will surprise many of you. But Donald Tusk was pretty rude yesterday about the special place in hell that people like me would go to. And I think by implication, quite a few of the 17.4 million people who voted Leave thought he was perhaps talking about them too. Well, she did actually talk about Donald Tusk today.
I've raised with President Tusk the language that he used yesterday, which was not helpful and caused widespread dismay in the United Kingdom. And the point I made to him is that we should both be working to ensure that we can deliver a close relationship between the United Kingdom and the European Union in the future, and that's what he should be focusing on.
So she's ticked off Donald Tusk for speaking in the way that he did, and quite right too. As I say, not often I say positive things about the Prime Minister, but it's about time some of these unelected bullies were put in their place. And I'm sure from that alone, many of you will think, well, that's not a bad thing that she's done. But, and here is the difficulty. Here is the real difficulty. Guy Verhofstadt, who, of course, went further yesterday than Tusk by saying that people like me didn't even deserve a place in hell, and he is an EU fanatic. Here was what Verhofstadt had to say about his talks with the Prime Minister on the backstop.
Mrs. May today in the meeting assured us that there will be a backstop. That what she said already in Belfast, there is no question to remove the backstop. Our proposal is to try to solve the problem in the political declaration, because we are open as Parliament from day one to upgrade this political declaration, to make this political declaration more binding, more precise, also on the issue of the backstop, explaining and saying very clearly that this is insurance and not more than that.
So there's a difference here, folks, between a withdrawal agreement, which is legally binding, and a political declaration that has about as much force as a child's wish list to Father Christmas. What is it Mrs May's trying to do? Well, she got the support of Parliament on the basis of alternative arrangements, and many of the Eurosceptics that voted for that took alternative arrangements to mean something different to the backstop. The Prime Minister, if Mr Verhofstadt's telling the truth, which I think he is, the Prime Minister is not looking to bin the backstop. She's looking for some legal guarantee to time limit it, maybe to 2025. And as I say, whatever gets put in the future political declaration, frankly, is meaningless. But the other thing that Verhofstadt said, and this is the thing that really is frustrating me, he is now admitting publicly the thing that I speculated last night to you. I said one of the reasons that I thought that we saw Tusk being as nasty as he was the same reason that I actually saw fear in the faces of Juncker and Barnier last week when I spoke standing right next to them in the European Parliament. They are getting very nervous about no deal, about a WTO deal. Here's what Verhofstadt said about it.
A no deal, as Mr Tajani has already indicated, is for us not an option. It is a disaster on both sides of the channel, and it is in fact irresponsible from some politicians in Britain to go for such a no deal. And
that's me, folks. That's me.
Such a no deal. So that is the opinion that we have clearly stated in the name of the Parliament.
So I'm not just going to hell and a very special place in hell. I'm also being very irresponsible because a no deal would be a disaster. But he admits, doesn't he? It'd be a disaster for them. And that's what I heard from Parisian businessmen today. That is why Tusk behaved as he did yesterday. It's why Juncker and Barnier are very, very worried. And yet, despite the fact that Article 50 says it's a negotiated deal or we leave without one, it seems pretty clear to me, unless there's something that has happened here that we don't know about. I don't think the Prime Minister is playing the strongest card that she's got. I don't think the Prime Minister realises just how scared they would be if she said, look, come on, let's come to a real arrangement, or I promise you, I will honour the promise I made in the press conference today. We are leaving on the 29th of March. All the inferences are from her that we are going to leave on the 29th of March, but with a deal that Parliament can agree, even if it means having to get Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party on side, even perhaps if it means signing up to a permanent customs union, whatever damage that may do to her own party. So let me ask you, do you think Mrs May has had a good day or a bad day? And I'm going to say this, folks. I think it's been a slightly better day for the Prime Minister. She looked a little bit more assured than we've seen her in the past. She's ticked off Tusk, and quite right too. But I don't think we're any closer to getting a withdrawal agreement unless she completely sells out to Corbyn's Labour Party. What do you think? Good day, 0345 6060 973. Bad day, text to 84850. Stalemate, if that's what you think. Please tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC, at LBC, and of course, Facebookers, you can comment there too. Let's go to David in Brighton, who is a new caller to the show. Good evening and welcome, David.
Good evening, Rich. Thank you very much indeed for taking my call. I might be a bit disjointed, so bear with me. First of all, good day or bad day.
Yeah.
If she's had a good day, it's by accident, because she has engineered nothing that would be to anybody's benefit in this country. So it really is by accident. And she'll soon convert that back to a normal bad day. There's no question in my mind about that. She's as obstinate as a mule. She's got the cunning of a lemming and the tenacity of Robert the British Spider to maintain a collision course with the electorate in this country. There is something wrong with her. I can't understand how this is a negotiation when we are constantly told you won't accept it, but you won't accept it. A negotiation is about persuasion. I'm absolutely, really, I cannot believe what we are doing as a nation and how much we're on the back foot. No, I'm really sorry.
David.
I'm babbling a little bit.
No, David. Look, you are outlining the failure of this Brexit process, which is a failure of leadership at pretty much every level. But David, would you at least agree that she's done the right thing by ticking off Donald Tusk?
Absolutely, but she ticked off Juncker for calling her nebulous, and that didn't seem to make much of an impact on them. I don't think they care. What she should be doing is also referring the same kicking off to Radke, because he was off the hook. He agreed with him at that press conference. He was heard agreeing with him. So
I know, David. David, she's not doing a good job. Thank you for your call. And of course, it's not just that they're scared, trade-wise, of tariffs being put on their wine, their Prosecco, their cars. There's a little issue of 39 billion. Tony's got it. He says, hi, Nigel. Theresa May has the EU over a barrel. She needs to hammer home the advantage. It's called 39 billion, and I agree. Mark from Stevenage is a new caller. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, Nigel. Thanks for talking to me.
Not at all.
Yeah, I think overall she's had a good day. To put it into context, I completely agree with you that, I mean, putting a Remainer in charge of taking us out of the EU is, frankly, completely laughable. Another point I'd like to make very quickly is that, can you imagine if the boot were on the other foot and it was somebody such as you who had made a comment like this about Remainers? The press backlash would have been furious today, yet the press have said nothing, because let's face it, mainly the press want us to stay in as well. So, I mean, overall, yes, I think she's had a good day in the sense that it was handled with dignity, and the comment is absolutely disgusting. But having said that, on a positive note, what a rallying call for leave.
Well, no, I agree with you. And Mark, you're quite right. If I'd said there's a special place in hell for Vince Cable, I would be accused of inciting hatred. I would be held up to be a perfect example of somebody who should be driven out of public life. Mark, I agree with you. I think all the mood music is driving public opinion in our country towards saying, do you know what? Let's just get out. Let's just leave on WTO terms, apply to Article 24 and buy ourselves a couple of years. Mark, thank you very much indeed, and buy ourselves a couple of years. Mark, thank you very much indeed for the call and for your points. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's now 6:15 and time for the news headlines with Lisa Aziz.
The Prime Minister's told the European Council President the language he used yesterday about some Brexiteers and a special place in hell for them was not helpful and caused widespread dismay in the UK. A UN inquiry into the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi says early findings show his death was planned and carried out by Saudi officials. There will be no horse race meetings in Britain until next Wednesday at the earliest, after 3 horses tested positive for equine flu. LBC weather: persistent rain spreading eastwards across much of England and Scotland overnight. Very windy elsewhere, a low of -1.
LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff. They're accusing Leighton on the A12 East Cross route southbound. 2 lanes are closed because of an accident just before the Lee interchange. It's very slow in Waltham Cross on Winston Churchill Way westbound to the A10, the Great Cambridge Road. A lane stays closed for emergency repairs. They're accusing the A40 Western Avenue eastbound from the Greenford flyover to Hanger Lane after a lorry broke down earlier. Kensington Church Street is closed in both directions because a sinkhole has appeared between Kensington High Street and Bedford Gardens. It's slow on the A22 in Gosden towards the roundabout for the M25 at Junction 6 because the lorry's broken down on the roundabout. And on the trains, Thameslink have delays between Radlett and Elstree and Boreham Wood. That's because of safety checks earlier on.
This is LBC.
This is a weather forecast from the Mayor of London's office. Not for today, but tonight. Temperatures will plummet to nearly 0. Ground frost and freezing rain likely. Nobody should sleep in that. I did, and the cold freezes you to the core. If you've seen someone sleeping rough, StreetLink can bring them in from the cold. Search Help London's Homeless.
Because whatever the weather, homeless people deserve better.
Do you need an alternative to your bank to secure finance? Well, Finance for Business are the brokers who can help you access it, allowing you to expand your property portfolio, to buy properties in need of refurbishment or development, or downsize and buy the dream home before your old house sells. Broking is the new banking, and Finance for Business are the brokers you can rely on. Search Finance for Business for details. Your home may be at risk of repossessed if you do not keep up repayments on a mortgage or any other loan secured on it.
You're on a roll, and life keeps rolling with you. You're rushing, you're moving, you're grooving, you're running late, you're gymming, you're swimming, you're meditating. And you're walking, you're talking, you're working, not working, and texting, you're simply unstoppable. And unstoppable shouldn't have to stop to enjoy great food. With Uber Eats, you could order food from your favorite restaurants and have it delivered right to your doorstep. Uber Eats. Get food delivered wherever life takes you. Download the app today. Available at selected times in selected locations.
When you buy the award-winning Alfa Romeo Giulia or the Stelvio Performance SUV, you can pretend it's for the 5-year warranty, the 3 years free servicing, 5 years roadside assistance, or the 5 years 0% APR. But the real reason is, you just want an Alfa Romeo. Start something beautiful. Visit alfaromeo.co.uk.
5 years or 75,000 miles warranty. Minimum 35% customer deposit. 60-month term. HB sales until the 31st of March 2019. Subject to status. T's and C's apply. Alfa Romeo Financial Services.
Singing along to the radio? Sorry to disturb you while you're loving life. But did you know with Co-op Funeral Care, you can plan and pay for your funeral in advance? Our unique Co-op commitment means we promise to cover the cost of your chosen funeral plan, even if you die before you've paid in full. And now you'll get £125 off by quoting Radio 19. So, sort your funeral plan today. Buy online, over the phone, or in your local Co-op Funeral Care. Offer ends 14th of April. For T's and C's, see coop.co.uk/125.
Hello, I'm John Cleese. In this week's episode of Imagine My Surprise, we're revisiting PPI. A few months ago, one of the biggest banks in the UK admitted that when they told tens of thousands of customers that they'd never been mis-sold PPI, well, in fact, they had been. So, on top of the mis-selling scandal, there's a mis-repaying scandal. Imagine my surprise. And never mind, for help from the experts in getting your PPI back, call We Fight Any Claim on 0800 355 0000.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
So the Prime Minister appears to be utterly determined to get a withdrawal agreement through Parliament, however bad it is. The days when she was saying no deal is better than a bad deal are way back in the dim and distant past. Fascinatingly, Tusk today said to her that he thought Jeremy Corbyn's plan could be a way out of the impasse. I've already said in her statement, a Conservative Prime Minister talked about EU workers' rights. Overnight, Jeremy Corbyn wrote a letter to the Prime Minister saying that the price of his backing a deal came in the form of 5 legally binding commitments. Firstly, a permanent and comprehensive UK-wide customs union. Close alignment with the single market. Updating alignment on rights, of course, including workers' rights. Commitment or participation in EU agencies. Unambiguous agreements on the detail of future security arrangements. So basically, and I don't believe Jeremy Corbyn himself wants all of this, but basically, the Labour Party are saying, the leader of the Labour Party is saying, they will back a withdrawal agreement if it becomes Brexit in name only. If we leave the treaty on March the 29th, but effectively stay part of the entire EU rulebook. Still not to be satisfied, Sir Keir Starmer, Labour's shadow Brexit secretary, tweeted out to clarify that, of course, a second referendum is still an option. There's no pleasing Keir Starmer. So I wonder, are we headed towards a very strange moment in British politics? You know, Brussels are now giving her a further 21 days to the end of the month to get this sorted out. There'll be more meetings going on with Jean-Claude Juncker and others in the intervening period. I wonder, is that what she's actually going to do? Is she prepared to risk splitting the Conservative Party to get a form of withdrawal agreement through? That's a story, folks, that'll play big over the course of the next few weeks. But for now, was it a good day or a bad day for her? Well, Anthony says probably a good day. She didn't actually get insulted, so not too bad. Nigel, it's business as usual. The EU says jump, and she says how high, says the cynic Jan in Norwich. Since they've agreed to talk, it's been a good couple of days. The EU cracked yesterday, and they've begun to move. Well, there's been some movement from Brussels. I would agree with that. On the face of it, some movement. But the backstop isn't going to be removed. The Prime Minister now isn't even asking for it to be removed, and that is what our own Eurosceptics wanted. Yet maybe there'll be a time limit of some kind. I don't know, but I really, and I worry if there's some codicil attached to this, whether it would in fact really be legally binding or whether ultimately it would stay under the European Court of Justice. I would say she's had a better day, but I simply can't call it a good day. Mike in Loughborough is a new caller. Welcome, Mike.
Hi.
How do you assess her day today?
Well, I think she's had a good day. But the only reason why I say she's had a good day is because it's another day towards no Brexit.
Well,
because the EU are not going to give her 1 ounce of any concessions.
Yes,
they're not going to change anything. And then we've got Corbyn, who's put all these proposals through, but they won't make any change to what's going to happen. I mean, the EU have got to agree to them before anything changes. So I'll just watching all these politicians and Mrs May, watching them doing what they're doing and saying what they're going to do. To me, it's like, you know, the fairy story, The Emperor's New Clothes.
I certainly
do. Just like that, because I can see them all walking around naked, but everybody else sees them walking around in fabulous clothes.
Well, Mike, you know, the most optimistic view from a leaver like you is today she took us 21 days closer to a no-deal Brexit. And I get that. And maybe, Mike, maybe I've misread the Prime Minister completely. Maybe she actually is angling to finish up at the end of this month by saying to Brussels, you've behaved appallingly, I'm going to act in my national interest, we're leaving on WTO terms, and we've applied under Article 24 of the GATT Treaty. Maybe, Mike, that is going to happen, but I do not believe it in my heart. Do you?
We'll have to see.
All right, we'll have to see. Okay, Mike, thank you very much. I'm off to Tyrone in Northern Ireland to speak to Frank, yet another new caller to the show. Welcome, Frank.
Hi, Nigel. How are you? Yeah. Look, you know what? I think she's had a very bad day because of the very thing you said earlier. She's not playing her best card.
I know.
Now, my best card is different than your best card, probably. So, the divorce deal was what, 35 billion?
39 billion.
39. Sorry, right. So there are 27 member states. Go to the bottom 15, the bottom 20. Give them all $1 billion to vote for Theresa's deal, not the EU's deal, to make the EU take the UK's deal. And the EU won't let it happen, because then the other rich countries who want out will be able to do it also. Buy the votes, buy the hand that you want, buy the deal. The EU won't let it happen, the EU will cave.
So just good old-fashioned bribery, Frank, could get us through here, yeah?
Yeah, but you know what? But you're not making a secret out of it. Say, this is what I will happen. If you don't vote, you know what, EU? You know what, Greece, they will take $1 billion happily. Spain, they'll take $1 billion. Italy, they'll take $1 billion. You know
well,
what?
I can
do
think.
It. Why not?
I can think of a better way to spend 39 billion, Frank. What about we give every family in Britain £1,200? Because that's what that 39 billion is. And if we did that, I tell you what, Brexit would be in a very, very big majority, wouldn't it?
Yes, you're exactly right. But you wouldn't be spending 39 billion. You'd be spending 15 to buy the 15 votes you needed. So you would save money, and you force the EU to take your vote. Theresa is far too soft. Ridiculous.
Well, Frank, I think we agree that her strongest card is that she's got 39 billion she can spend. But I wouldn't want to spend any money to get her deal through. Her deal's dreadful, Frank. I mean, Frank, as somebody in Northern Ireland, what do you think of the backstop proposal?
Not her deal. That's the EU's deal that they've said, Theresa, you're taking.
Okay.
Theresa, make your own deal. Say, I will spend 15 billion, and the EU won't let it go through, because then it will open the gates
for other rich
countries to buy the votes.
But I'd love to know what her deal is, Frank, because it's all very confusing in some ways, isn't it?
That's the thing. She hasn't got one. She's been told you're taking this. She needs to get a deal that puts the country first and say, you take this, or else we are going to massively screw you over, EU.
Frank, I'd love to hear it. It would be a massive change in tone for the Prime Minister. I get your point. I thank you for the call. Gareth says, every time we get leverage against the EU, Mrs May goes and scuppers our position. Sandra says, why does Theresa May keep going back to Brussels and coming back with nothing? Well, Sandra, she's come back with an extra 21 days. You could argue that is something of a victory for the Prime Minister. The EU have said they're prepared to be very positive. Tajani even said ambitious in terms of the wording around the Irish backstop, but that would be in the political declaration, which is a wish list for the future, not in the legally binding agreement. Damien is calling from Bradford, and a new caller. Good evening, Damien.
Hey, Nigel. Nice to speak to you.
Good to speak to you. So, good day or bad day for the Prime Minister?
I think it's an indifferent day. I don't think she's made much movement, really. I think she should have tested the EU's resolve by just saying, if you're not moving, we're not moving, we'll shake hands now and give some time to sort out the Irish border and see what they said to that, whether they wanted to leave on WTO or not.
Yes. I mean, I must admit, Damien, if she turned up there and they're going to give nothing on the withdrawal agreement but a few future promises in the political declaration, the best thing to have done would have been turned up, told Tusk his fortune and walked out. Now, that would have been good, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. She just turned up and says, we're not coming to any agreement. We'll agree on WTO. I'll keep my money and spend it on port improvements and maybe give some out to families, like you said.
Yeah. Well, but Damien, isn't the truth of it? She's been trying from the start to give us a Remainers Brexit.
Well, that's the main problem, in it. We've got a Remainer running Brexit instead of like Boris or yourself.
We've got a Remainer running Brexit. Just about sums it up, Damien. Thank you very much indeed. Tony says, if she's had a good day, I'd hate to see what a bad one looks like. And Maureen makes the broader point on Facebook. Italy, France are not happy with each other. German finances not looking great. The EU has bigger worries. I'm going to talk a bit about the diplomatic row that exploded today between France and Italy and other French problems. But for now, you're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusive in LBC. It's now 6:30 and time for the news with Lisa Aziz.
The Prime Minister has told the European Council President the language he used yesterday about some Brexiteers and a special place in hell for them was not helpful and caused widespread dismay in the UK. But Theresa May is insisting she will deliver Brexit on time following robust and constructive talks with EU officials in Brussels today on seeking changes to her withdrawal deal. A United Nations-led inquiry into the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi says early findings show his death was planned and perpetrated by officials from Saudi Arabia. It's called his murder the gravest violation of all human rights, the right to life. The Gulf Kingdom has always denied any involvement. There will be no horse racing in the UK until next Wednesday at the earliest. After an outbreak of equine flu, the British horse racing authorities made the announcement after 3 confirmed cases. LBC weather persistent rain spreading eastwards across much of England and Scotland overnight, turning windy everywhere with gales expected in the west, a low of -1.
It's my huge honour to present such an important award tonight.
LBC and its sister stations from Global come together to bring you...
Thank you very much. You make us all proud.
The Global Awards 2019.
With very.co.uk.
But who will win this time? See huge performances on the night from Little Mix and Lang Lang. Voting is open and tickets are on sale now. Download the Global Player app to get yours or go online to lbc.co.uk. Thursday, March the 7th, London's Hammersmith event in Apollo, and you could be there. The Global Awards 2019.
With very.co.uk. Get more out of every day.
LBC.
Go anywhere. Do anything. We've got you covered. 5 years warranty, 3 years free servicing, and 5 years roadside assistance available on the entire Jeep range. And from only £169 per month and 0% APR on the Jeep Compass. Jeep, born to be wild. 5 years or 75,000 miles warranty. Finance offer on Compass 1.4 longitude, 37 months. Customer deposit £8,000. Optional final payment £11,000. 15,000 miles per annum. PCP sales until 31st March 2019. Subject to status. T's and C's apply. Jeep Financial Services.
Dad, the bath water's cold.
When something goes wrong, we all like having someone to turn to. We're with you. So from £12 a month, that's just 40p a day, get British Gas Home Care boiler cover and one of our 6,000 engineers will get it sorted. You can contact us 24/7. And when you buy selected home care products online by the 18th of February, get 1 month free. Search British Gas Home Care. Conditions apply.
Your business has come this far, but now's your time to soar into the skies of spectacular with a fast, affordable Funding Circle business loan. With decisions in as little as 24 hours and a dedicated account manager, there's no waiting around. So join the thousands of businesses who have taken out a Funding Circle loan and help your business fly. Apply today at fundingcircle.com. Authorized and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. T's and C's apply.
Life is full of so many things. Happy things, sad things, and surprising things. You've got commuting things, typing things, planning things. With all these things, it's easy to forget you need to eat something. So open the Uber Eats app to order a sushi thing, a burger thing, or perhaps that new thing. Sit for a minute and enjoy that thing, and then get back to all your other things. Uber Eats. Get food delivered wherever life takes you. Download the app today. Available at selected times in selected locations.
Smile. The Tui Sale is now on, with great offers on destinations from Turkey to Tenerife. Reunite and save up to £200 per couple. Book online or visit your local Tui store and fly direct from London Stansted Airport. We cross the T's, dot the I's and put you in the middle. Tui. Discover your smile. Atoll protected. Offer available on selected holidays. Departures from May 2019 for a limited time and subject to availability. Booking T's and C's apply. See website for details.
High quality, affordable kitchens designed in your own home. That's Room Sense.
That's Room Sense.
Book your free Room Sense home design visit and we'll measure up, show you samples, create a stunning kitchen design and give you a quote all before we leave.
Quality at a price you can afford. That's Room Sense.
Book today at roomsense.co.uk.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
And that breaking news from Brussels, just to go through it with you again, Donald Tusk has said that if Theresa May was to back Jeremy Corbyn's plan, and that, of course, is permanent customs union, alignment with single market rules, workers' rights and much else, Tusk has said in the last half an hour that would be a promising way out of the current Brexit impasse. And given that clearly the backstop is remaining, it may get time limited, there may be some promise for the future, but not one that's legally binding. Is that the way we're going? Is Theresa May going to try and do a deal with Jeremy Corbyn to get us out of the European Union in name, but keep us stuck in a customs union? That is going to be, I think, the big story that's going to dominate this for the next week or perhaps even more. Now, I'm in Paris today. I mentioned earlier I spoke to a group of French business people earlier, all of whom, just like Mr. Verhofstadt, are scared of no deal. But there have been some extraordinary diplomatic developments today, and joining me is Peter Allen, LBC's Paris correspondent. And what started off as a spat with Italy, I think Peter turned rather serious today.
It's really escalated, Nigel. The Italians have been sniping the French, predominantly about the way Emmanuel Macron is running France. They're particularly referring to the yellow vests who are on the streets every Saturday, and they're on the streets this week as well. And they're effectively saying that Emmanuel Macron isn't running France very well, is a pretty useless president. He's been infuriated by this, and today he did what you're meant to do in diplomatic circles. You call your ambassador back from Rome, which is what's happened. And Mr. Macron has released statements through the Foreign Office, officially from the French Foreign Office, but of course it's very much his decision. And it's the worst diplomatic row since the 1940s, which is, of course, when Italy was a member of the Axis powers, who supported the Nazi occupation of Paris and of France, of course. So very, very serious.
And all of this between European Union member states, which makes it, I think, all the more remarkable. Now, you mentioned the yellow vests, and, you know, we've obviously, on British media, been talking and looking at the yellow vests, but it seems that UK media interest for this has kind of fallen away. I know last weekend was the 12th weekend of these protests, but what really interests me is what happened in Paris this Tuesday, which got virtually no coverage in the UK at all. Please enlighten our listeners.
Tuesday was extraordinary. The Yellow Vests joined a demonstration by trade unionists across France. Students joined in as well. That might sound trite, but students are very, very important in the dissent movement in France, and there were demonstrations in most cities. There was a massive demonstration in central Paris, mainly on Rue de Rivoli. I attended, there was some scenes of appalling disorder, banks, windows being put in, fighting with the police, tear gas everywhere, baton charges. I think what the problem is, as far as the media is concerned, it's all become so institutionalized, and we're so used to these scenes now, especially in Paris, that people are rather bored of them now. The media's rather bored of them, and they're not covering them. But it really was pretty appalling what happened on Tuesday.
No, I'm quite extraordinary that, nearly 100,000 people can, a lot of them riot in Paris, and no one seems to particularly care. And what does all this mean for French politics? Because, we know Jean-Luc Mélenchon on the left has been on the rise. We know that Marine Le Pen has been on the rise and then perhaps fallen a bit. We've got European elections coming up here on the 26th of May. We've got a president whose popularity ratings are, as I understand it, the lowest they've ever been for a president at this stage. Where is French politics going on the back of these protests?
Well, in layman terms, people are getting sick of politics, to put it very in a very coarse way. That's what the yellow vests are all about. The idea is they're sick of the institutions of the French Republic. They're sick of the way, as they would describe it, all the money is at the top of society and it's not filtering down anymore. But most of all, they're sick of the politicians, the people who are running their lives. And there's a great air of populism in the country. The party that came second, of course, was Le Pen's party. It's changed its name now, but it still represents populist, anti-establishment sentiment. So in layman terms, that would be the answer to your question, I think. There's an anti-politics feel.
Well, I have to say, Paris is a very beautiful place, but at the moment it's not a very happy place. Peter Allen, LBC's Paris correspondent, thank you. And extraordinary that you can have such violence on such a huge scale in Paris, and it barely got reported after Tuesday. Well, back to our question. Back to, has Theresa May had a good day, a bad day, or perhaps just an indifferent one? Andrew on Facebook says, can someone tell me if I'm going to hell? I voted leave. And that's the feeling I've been having. Well, he was very rude to us yesterday. Verhofstadt was even worse. I'm pleased the Prime Minister told him what she thought. Let's go to Craig in Eastbourne, a new caller to the show. Good evening, Craig.
Good evening, Nigel. How are you?
I am well, but I'm beginning to think that actually anything Mrs May went to Brussels with today in terms of getting rid of the backstop has been surrendered already, and I worry we're headed towards a customs union type relationship, Craig.
I'm afraid for me it's like watching Neville Chamberlain's dog being beaten around rather than an actual Prime Minister of the United Kingdom in Brussels. It's a thorough embarrassment to the entire country. I don't think she's had a bad enough day. For me, she should resign immediately. That's my feeling. From here on in, my vote represents just a referendum on sacking my MP. And I don't care what they stand for or represent. It's the sack. My MP defended and backed the original deal that was defeated. The Labour Party can't be trusted either because they're going down the route of staying in all but name.
They are. Yep.
So I think my feelings are, I don't know how many other people out there feel this is that Westminster needs to boot up the backside so hard until they headbutt the moon at the next election, because they need, and I'll use these words carefully because I'm not a Donald Trump supporter, but they need a Donald Trump moment in this country to wake them out of their stupor. And the other thing that I'm very disappointed by is this whole slippery slope fallacy argument that's been constructed around a no-deal Brexit. No deal actually represents leaving the European Union. Okay, it's the only thing on the table that represents that exists as things stand. And slippery slope is basically A will happen, if you choose A, X will happen, therefore A can't happen. That's the entire argument that they've developed around the no deal to basically eliminate it from debate. It's entirely embarrassing, ridiculous, and I think May should resign.
Why is it that Mrs May will not play the WTO no-deal card? Why won't she do it?
she probably thinks out of conviction that something disastrous is going to happen. I've been sending a meme around showing dinosaurs going, "Oh my God, Brexit," with an asteroid hitting the Earth. That's really the kind of nonsense we're getting out of the political classes. And I can switch on the BBC, Channel 4, Channel 5, Sky. It's the same echo chamber that we're constantly listening to in the general public.
Yeah,
And
I'm not sure it's working,
disgrace.
Craig, is it?
Sorry?
I'm not sure it's not working though, Craig, is it? Because actually, what we're seeing amongst Leave voters is very much a hardening of their position.
Well, I remember looking at the Sunderland Echo, 61%. That was the symbolic first declarer at the referendum. 61% voted to leave. Today, when they've done polls in the local area of Sunderland, 70% of Sunderland want a no-deal Brexit. So I'm really wondering where exactly they're extrapolating the idea that there's any support for a people's vote, which, by the way...
Oh, no, there isn't. There isn't. No,
you
Craig.
say only 8% want another referendum.
Yeah. Craig, that's gone. But let me ask you, Craig, and let me finish up with you by asking.
Sure.
Do you think Mrs May is going to get a deal through Parliament by the end of this month?
I personally think, my gut feeling is she's finished. Because there's no way the Parliament is going to put up with any form of backstop in that deal whatsoever. That's my feeling. And it sounds like she's trying to put a backstop in there dressed up as something else. And I don't think they're that stupid not to notice that.
Well,
So
Craig, I tell you what, Craig, you think she's finished. I thought she was finished several times in the last 6 months, and I was wrong pretty much every single time. She is a great survivor. Craig, I thank you. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's now 6:45 and time for the news headlines with Lisa Aziz.
The Prime Minister's told the European Council President the language he used yesterday about some Brexiteers and a special place in hell for them was not helpful and caused widespread dismay in the UK. A UN-led inquiry into the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi says early findings show his death was planned and carried out by Saudi officials. There will be no horse race meetings in Britain until next Wednesday at the earliest, after 3 horses tested positive for equine flu. LBC weather: persistent rain spreading eastwards across much of England and Scotland overnight. Very windy elsewhere, a low of -1.
LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff. There are queues on the M25 anti-clockwise. 2 lanes are closed because of an accident between junction 26 for Waltham Abbey and junction 25 for Enfield. It's very slow in Leighton on the A12 East Cross route southbound. 2 lanes are closed because of an accident before the Lee interchange. In Waltham Cross, there are delays on Winston Churchill Way westbound to the A10, the Great Cambridge Road. A lane stays closed for emergency repairs. Kensington Church Street is closed in both directions because a sinkhole appeared this morning between Kensington High Street and Bedford Gardens. And on the trains, Thameslink had delays of up to 15 minutes and some cancellations between Radlett and Elstree and Boreham Wood. That's after some safety checks earlier on.
Coming up at 7 on LBC, Ian Dale.
No deal in Brussels for Mrs May, but Jeremy Corbyn offers a way out. The LBC Business Hour at 8 and at 9. Do we British suffer from a poor work ethic?
Ian Dale on LBC.
Tom, take a seat. You must be exhausted after your train journey.
It's okay. Let's do this standing.
Do you want to plug in your laptop?
No, I'm at 100%.
And the presentation, I'll get you the Wi-Fi code to download it.
Already downloaded.
Well, it pays to be prepared. Let's get cracking, Tom.
Actually, there is one thing before we start.
Anything you need, Tom.
My name's Chris.
Right.
With free Wi-Fi, extra seats and more power sockets on every train, you'll always arrive ready for business with Great Western Railway. Terms and conditions apply.
Your business has come this far, but now's your time to soar into the skies of spectacular with a fast, affordable Funding Circle business loan. With decisions in as little as 24 hours and a dedicated account manager, there's no waiting around. So join the thousands of businesses who have taken out a Funding Circle loan and help your business fly. Apply today at fundingcircle.com. Authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. T's and C's apply.
Nice, isn't it?
Yeah. Are the alloys standard?
Optional, sir.
Heated front seats and steering wheel?
Available with a cold weather pack?
Sat-nav?
Afraid not.
At Vauxhall, buy a new Corsa Griffin with a whole host of features as standard.
What do I get?
Would you like a coffee?
The Corsa Griffin. All Griffin, no bull. Visit your nearest retailer now. Vauxhall, British brand since 1903. Available at participating retailers only. Limited units while stocks last.
Ah! Gee,
GCSEs, A-levels.
For exam success without the stress, only one name stands out. Justin Craig. A Justin Craig Easter course kickstarts revision, consolidates knowledge, boosts confidence and improves exam technique. With over 30 years' experience, Justin Craig has helped more than 100,000 students secure their university place. For Easter revision course details, visit justincraig.ac.uk. Justin Craig, just in time.
Many dentists refer their own patients on to Darwood and Tanner.
My name is Dr. Mark Kent. I'm a general dental practitioner practicing in a North London suburb. Darwood and Tanner have become my preferred referral practice. I feel that Dr. Andrew Darwood can provide the highest level of implant surgery that is available, together with giving my patients the option of alternative specialist treatments.
Download your information pack today. Search Darwood and Tanner. Your smile is our healthy obsession.
A good cup of tea can fix everything. Well, possibly not your broken boiler, but Trusted Trader are always on hand to help. TrustedTrader.com have lots of really lovely tradespeople who are vetted, reviewed and reliable, so you'll have your pick of a great bunch. Simply pop the kettle on and head online to find a professional in their trade, including that heating engineer. See, a cup of tea does fix everything.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
Well, I have to say, Mrs. May has had a slightly better day in Brussels. She's not been talked down to. She's taken down Donald Tusk a peg or two, and there's constructive talk from the European Parliament and many others, but they now conclude that maybe Jeremy Corbyn's overnight letter is the way forward to break the deadlock. The trouble with that is we'd then be locking ourselves permanently into a customs union and alignment with single market rules. That is no good. But could that maybe in the end go through Parliament if most of the Labour Party supported it? Goodness me, what would that do to the Tories? Some of you agreeing with Craig. Our caller before the break from Eastbourne, Mary says, I totally agree with Craig. We are constantly telling Dominic Raab, our MP, we should leave on WTO rules. Yes, I totally agree with Craig over the EU, says Peter. So that did pick up some support. Jeff in Manchester says, Corbyn wants a customs union and to stay in a single market. That is the polar opposite of what Cameron said when we went to the ballot box. He said it would take us out of the customs union and the single market. This is, Jeff, the kind of twisting we're getting from our political parties. We voted for all of this in a referendum. We backed it up in a general election, and they're trying to rat on us. Scott is a new caller from Leeds. Good evening, Scott.
Good evening. Pleasure to speak to you, Nigel.
Pleasure to speak to you. So how do you assess her day?
I listen to you most nightly whenever you're on anyway, but I'm ringing to defend the Tories. In fairness, I will say one thing, I'm a lifelong Tory voter, so maybe I am a bit biased.
Well, that's always good to get the confession, Scott, out of the way nice and early.
Yeah. Completely, 99% of what you say I completely and utterly agree with. I voted to leave and everything, but I will say one thing. I believe Gina Miller, the Labour Party, SNP and the Liberals have stabbed the Tories in the back from the very, very moment we all voted to leave. And I do feel, hand on heart, incredibly sorry for Theresa May, because no matter what she does, no matter what she says, she's got one lot of people saying great and one lot of people stopping. And I think she's damned if she does and she's damned if she don't. So as far as I'm concerned, I trust her. I know she's a Remainer. I get all that. I do get that.
She is.
But I trust her. I trust her completely to do the right thing for the people that voted to leave. And I do. I'm not daft. I do think when it comes to the crunch at the end, she will do.
Well, Scott, it's interesting that you say you feel sorry for Theresa May, and it's interesting. It's quite a widespread opinion. They feel sorry for Theresa May. They feel she's doing her best. They feel that other MPs are stabbing her in the back. That is not an uncommon view of it. And on a human level, perhaps I can understand it. My problem, Scott, with your leader is this: that she went to Florence and she made a speech where she announced she wanted to opt back in to hold parts of the European Union, this close and special relationship. I voted to leave, Scott, not to opt back in to lots of parts of the European Union. And that, to me, ever since that moment, I've realised we're heading for a Remainers Brexit, not the one people like you, Scott, voted for.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree with the vast majority of what you say. I'll tell you one thing I would have done if I was Theresa May from the word go. I would have got the best and brightest business negotiators in this country.
Absolutely.
And I would have got them to treat it like a business deal.
And what did she get, Scott? What did she get, Scott? She got Ollie Robbins, a civil service Remainer. Look, I admire your loyalty to your party leader. I would suggest gently, Scott, it's a little misplaced.
Thank you.
But I meant that nicely, I promise you. Thank you. Let's go to Enfield and speak to John, another new caller. John, good evening.
Hello there, Nigel. Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you.
I think people have got things completely wrong here. This whole thing with Theresa May is a complete and utter sham. This lady is a hard Remainer. And if your listeners want at some point to go onto YouTube, there is an excellent interview of Steve Baker in front of the European Scrutiny Committee where he completely blows the lid on everything that Theresa May and her advisers have been doing behind the scenes. They have completely subverted. There was never any intention of leaving. It's all been a pack of lies, and Steve Baker absolutely blows it out of the water. It's an hour and 9 minutes long, but it's compulsive viewing. It really is for what he has to say.
John.
Yes.
Politicians and leaders can make promises and they can bend them and twist them. But are you seriously suggesting that the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom has willfully misled and deceived us from the start?
Absolutely, Nigel, completely and utterly. And you've only got to see this thing on YouTube. And this is a man who was interviewed, who they actually had, believe it or not, they actually were offered a full facilitation trade deal. They even got somebody in Brussels to deal with it. And Theresa May and her team turned it down. She is determined to keep us in a customs union. The backstop is there purely to keep us in. She has no intention of getting us out of the European Union. This whole thing going to Brussels is a complete and utter sham, and she's been peddling trying to demonise the whole no deal thing. Anything to do with no deal has been demonised. The propaganda machine has been working overtime out of number two. It really has.
No, I know that. John, I know that. And some of the leaks to the Sunday papers about martial law being declared, the royal family leaving Buckingham Palace if there's a no deal and all the rest of it. John, I do understand what you're saying. I hope that at the heart of your argument you're wrong, but you may well not be. Brian is calling from Guernsey and a new caller. Good evening, Brian.
Good evening. I've tried to get through to you on 5 times, Nigel, and I've finally been successful.
Well, Brian, I tell you what, one of the reasons it's tough is we have so many new callers, and I advertise the fact you're new callers to encourage other new callers. So, it can be tough to get through, but we always want to hear, Brian, from new people.
There's a couple of things I disagree with you intently on, Nigel.
Okay, go on.
One is you said it wasn't very good that the chap said we should all rot in hell, the people who voted to leave. Now, that is saying that all people that wanted a democratic vote should rot in hell because the biggest majority of people wanted to leave. The second one is, you said Theresa May was the biggest, the most duplicitous Prime Minister.
I have said that, yes, I have said that, yeah.
I think Tony Blair was with the war. I think he's a very, very close second, an exceptionally close second. And I agree with everything the previous caller says. You will never get Brexit whilst you get Theresa May in power. And the vast majority of MPs are not listening to their bosses, which are the electorate. They're just refusing to listen to them. And it really is sad. The political system wants to be changed. You were cheated out of power by people that spend hundreds of thousands of pounds in bussing people in to say you were a nasty person, you were a racist. Now, hang on. They were turning around and saying all horrible things to you, breaking all the laws, and yet them MPs are still in power, Nigel.
Well, Brian, I have to say, to try and break the system in our country is a dashed difficult thing to do, all of which in many ways makes the Brexit result even the more remarkable. Brian, I thank you. I'm going to run to Chris in Crowber. Chris, time really tight. New caller, welcome to the show.
Oh, good evening, Nigel. Pleasure to talk to you.
Basically, I mean, what I'd like to say is that with Mrs. May, I can't get my head around the fact that the woman doesn't utilize, the fact that of having no deal. As I know you've said it many times, obviously it's the woman's trump card. And why can't she realise if she was to have a bit more backbone, and when these people have, which they've done many times, have been rude, she should get up, walk away. And this week, what she should say is, right, sorry, chaps, if you can't come up with the goods, I'm off. We're having no deal. See you later. I mean, it's so,
Chris,
to me, it's so blatantly obvious. And people would vote for the woman.
Chris, they'd come, not only would she suddenly become the most popular Prime Minister in modern times, but the European Union would come running down the street after her saying, please come back. I know they would. Chris, you make the point, you make it well. Thank you to all of you, every one of you, a new caller. I do encourage you to try. I know it's tough to get through. We want to hear from lots and lots of new people. I'm going to be back here on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. At 10 o'clock tonight, it's Ian Payne. But up next, it's Ian Dale.
Thank you very much, Nigel. Well, coming up at 9, a Brighton cafe owner turns down a job application